Kurt Warner's journey is the kind of story that almost seems too good to be true. It has everything: struggle, heartbreak, perseverance, and triumph. In a world where NFL greatness usually follows a straight line, elite high school programs, powerhouse college careers, top NFL draft picks, Warner broke every rule in the book. He was overlooked, underestimated, and at times completely out of football. And yet, he ended up as one of the greatest quarterbacks of his generation. This is the incredible true story of how Kurt Warner went from stocking shelves in a grocery store to becoming an NFL Hall of Famer. Kurt Warner was born on June 22, 1971 in Burlington, Iowa, but his football roots were planted in Cedar Rapids, where he grew up. His parents divorced when he was young, and Warner was primarily raised by his mother, who worked long hours just to keep things afloat. There wasn't a lot of luxury in the Warner household, just a strong sense of hard work, faith, and discipline. From an early age, Kurt developed a deep love for football. He idolized Joe Montana and the classic 49ers teams of the 1980s. But even with the dream in his heart, he was never seen as a surefire talent. He wasn't the most physically gifted quarterback coming out of high school, and that reality made his path to success far from guaranteed. Still, he stayed focused and determined. At Regis High School in Cedar Rapids, Warner finally earned the starting quarterback role. He showed flashes of potential, especially with his quick decision-making and natural leadership. But he wasn't heavily recruited. He didn't have the national buzz or the high school accolades that most future NFL quarterbacks seem to rack up. When it came time to choose a college, Warner ended up at the University of Northern Iowa, a smaller Division I AA program that gave him a chance, but not exactly a spotlight. And even there, Warner had to wait. For most of his college career, he was a backup. Year after year, he sat on the bench, learning the system, studying film, and watching from the sidelines. Many guys in his position would have transferred or given up on their NFL dreams. Not Warner. He stuck it out, and when his moment finally came in his senior year, he made it count. As a fifth-year senior, Warner was named the starting quarterback for the Panthers and finally had the chance to show what he was capable of. He threw for over 3,000 yards, earned the Gateway Conference Offensive Player of the Year, and led UNI to a playoff berth. It was clear he had the talent. He just needed a chance. But that chance didn't come immediately. Warner was not selected in the 1994 NFL Draft. Despite his breakout season, he didn't hear his name called on draft weekend. Not in the first round, not in the last. Undrafted, unsigned, and unsure of what came next, Warner was back to square one. He got an invite to a Green Bay Packers training camp that summer, where he briefly shared a quarterback room with Brett Favre, Mark Brunell, and Ty Detmer. But the odds were stacked against him. Warner never made it past the early stages of camp. He didn't even get a chance to play in a preseason game before being cut. With his NFL hopes hanging by a thread, Warner returned to Cedar Falls, Iowa, and took a job stocking shelves on the overnight shift at a local Hy-Vee grocery store. He made $5.50 an hour. Think about that. Less than $6 an hour, working through the night, wondering if his football career was already over. It was a far cry from the NFL stadiums and million-dollar contracts he once dreamed about. But Warner never let go of the dream. During the day, he would work out, study film, and train like he was still getting ready for Sunday. At night, he'd load cans and clean floors. This was the defining period of Warner's life, the chapter that made everything else possible. While most would see it as the end of the road, Warner treated it as preparation. He leaned heavily on his faith. He trusted there was a purpose behind the pain. And eventually, another door opened. In 1995, Warner was offered a contract with the Iowa Barnstormers of the Arena Football League. It wasn't the NFL, but it was football. He could play, he could compete, he could prove himself, and he did, almost immediately. Warner was a perfect fit for the fast-paced, tight-window style of arena football. His quick release, anticipation, and accuracy made him an instant star. In his first season, he threw for over 2,000 yards and 23 touchdowns in just 7 starts. Over the next 2 years, he led the Barnstormers to consecutive Arena Bowl appearances and earned first-team All-Arena honors. Fans loved him, teammates respected him, and slowly, the NFL started to take notice again. By 1997, he had caught the attention of the St. Louis Rams, who signed him to a futures contract and allocated him to NFL Europe to get more reps. Playing for the Amsterdam Admirals, Warner once again made the most of the opportunity. He led the league in passing yards and threw for 15 touchdowns. It wasn't glamorous, but it was another step in the right direction. In 1998, he returned to the Rams as a third-string quarterback behind Tony Banks and Steve Bono. He barely saw the field, but quietly, he was preparing, watching film, studying defenses, staying sharp. The following year, the Rams brought in Trent Green to be the starter and retained Warner as the backup. And then, the twist of fate. In the 1999 preseason, Green suffered a devastating knee injury, tearing his ACL and ending his season. The Rams' playoff hopes seemed doomed before the year even began, but head coach Dick Vermeil made an announcement that would change NFL history. "We will rally around Kurt Warner, and we will play good football." That quote, almost comically overlooked at the time, would become iconic. No one knew who Warner was. Fans groaned. Analysts laughed. But what followed was one of the greatest seasons in NFL history. Kurt Warner exploded onto the scene in 1999, throwing for over 4,300 yards, 41 touchdowns, and winning the NFL MVP. The Rams went 13-3 and had the #1 offense in the league. Warner wasn't just good. He was spectacular. He made throw after throw, dissecting defenses and connecting with playmakers like Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, and Marshall Faulk. They weren't just winning, they were redefining offensive football. They called it the greatest show on turf. In Super Bowl 34, Warner cemented his legacy. Facing the Tennessee Titans, he threw for a then-record 414 yards and 2 touchdowns. Late in the fourth quarter, tied at 16, Warner launched a 73-yard touchdown to Isaac Bruce to take the lead. The Titans drove down the field in the final minute, but were stopped 1 yard short of the goal line as time expired. Warner was named Super Bowl MVP, and he really went from a grocery store stalker to Super Bowl champion and NFL MVP. But he wasn't done. In 2001, Warner won his second MVP and led the Rams to another Super Bowl. They faced off against a young Tom Brady and the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 36. It was a game the Rams were heavily favored to win, but they fell in a shocking upset, a last-second field goal giving New England its first Super Bowl victory. Warner threw for over 300 yards, but was intercepted twice. Still, he remained one of the league's most respected and productive quarterbacks. Then came the injuries, the hits, the doubt. From 2002 to 2004, Warner struggled with hand injuries and inconsistent play. He lost his starting job in St. Louis, was released, and signed with the New York Giants. There, he started the 2004 season, but was eventually benched in favor of rookie Eli Manning. Once again, Warner was seen as done, but once again, he wasn't. In 2005, the Arizona Cardinals gave Warner another chance, one final shot to prove he could still lead a team. For the first couple years, he battled with rookie Matt Leinart for playing time. But by 2007, he had fully taken control of the starting job. And in 2008, at 37 years old, Kurt Warner authored another miracle. He led the Cardinals to a 9-7 record and the franchise's first division title in 33 years. Then came a stunning playoff run, a dominant win over the Falcons, a road upset against the Panthers, and an NFC Championship win over the Eagles. Warner was on fire, throwing for 770 yards and 8 touchdowns in the first 3 playoff games. In Super Bowl 43 against the Steelers, Warner nearly pulled off another stunning win. He threw for 377 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a 64-yard strike to Larry Fitzgerald that gave Arizona the lead with just over 2 minutes remaining. But the Steelers mounted one of the greatest final drives in Super Bowl history, and a toe-tap catch by Santonio Holmes in the corner of the end zone sealed a heartbreaking loss for Warner. Still, his performance was legendary. He had taken 2 underdog franchises to the Super Bowl. He had done the unthinkable twice. Warner played 1 more season before retiring in 2010. He left the game as a 2-time league MVP, a Super Bowl champion and MVP, a 4-time Pro Bowler, and one of the most efficient passers in NFL postseason history. More importantly, he left as one of the most inspirational athletes the sport has ever seen. In 2017, Kurt Warner was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and during his speech, he reminded the world that greatness doesn't come from where you start. It comes from what you do when no one's watching, when no one believes in you, when the odds are stacked against you. Beyond football, Warner is a devoted husband and father. He and his wife Brenda have raised 7 children together, and they've been outspoken about their faith, their family, and their commitment to helping others. His First Things First Foundation supports children with disabilities, families in need, and single moms, a reflection of the life he came from and the values that shaped him. Kurt Warner's story is not just about football. It's about never giving up. It's about how a man who the world forgot refused to stop believing in himself, and in doing so, inspired millions. From grocery store clerk to NFL MVP, from stocking shelves to the Super Bowl, from rejection to football immortality. Kurt Warner is living proof that sometimes the underdog wins.